help your child make and keep friends. Kids with ADHD often struggle to make and keep friends. Unlike their peers, kids with ADHD might not learn from past social interactions that don't go according to plan because they won't understand what went wrong and therefore what to do next time. As a parent or a carer, there's a lot you can do to help ease them into a better understanding of themselves, as well as how they can make and sustain relationships with their peers. As in all aspects of ADHD, it's essential that you as a parent understand as much as possible about how ADHD may be affecting your child. In other words, what kinds of behavior and understanding does their brain support, and which ones does it not, at least not yet? For example, if you say to your child, be nice, or take turns, or don't be mean, it's unlikely to mean that much to a child with ADHD because being nice and friendly was always their intent. For a lot of kids, not just the young ones, the daily necessity to enter a classroom full of their peers can be overwhelming. The ADHD brain can quickly become overwhelmed, overly excited, and overly emotional. Their impulsivity may lead to interrupting or being a little too honest, and they may have difficulty sustaining a balanced conversation where all participants can exchange ideas. These behaviors can be addressed and strategies developed to ease their way into making lasting friendships. Your part is to model for your child the approaches that will help them to develop the awareness and skills they need to practice in their daily lives. To that end, be an ally in awareness. Try to have discussions with your child in which you support their developing awareness of what happens when they try to interact with their peers. Just be curious about what may not be working and be sure to notice what goes well. For example, you could say, I wonder what happened in that situation, or I wonder how the other child felt in that moment. You could say, what were you feeling at that point? Or you could say, it seems like you were really struggling with what seemed unfair to you. Or it sounds like you were really trying to win him over as a friend, and that took courage. Listen to them and explore their social experiences with confidence that they'll be okay. They're going to get this. Other ways to practice socializing is with role play. This could be done with puppets or toys because sometimes it's easier to hear feedback from a toy than a person. For example, if your child tends to ramble in conversation, a puppet could respond by saying, I feel like I got left out of that conversation. Or, I feel like you're talking at me, not to me. Reading stories can present an opportunity to call attention to how the characters are behaving as friends or how they resolve conflict. A great example of that is The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. When possible, anticipate and prepare for tough social situations. Before going into situations that may present some challenges, anticipate what those challenges might be and discuss with your child's input a plan for how to wind down or diffuse a situation if it becomes necessary. Games and competitive sporting events can become a bit tricky when a child has strong feelings about what they see as fair, or when they are disappointed about their performance not turning out quite the way they wanted. Birthday parties, too, can be an emotionally overwhelming situation. It's good to have a plan in place that the child already knows about. Next, think about making it as easy as possible for your child to have friends. Setting your child up with easier ways to practice being social can support developing maturity in this area. Involve your child in activities that will take the pressure off the need to perform in certain ways, such as perhaps joining a trampoline club or creative activities. Look for friends who share their interests. And if your child seems able to cope with online gaming, there's great potential for socializing within certain online games, such as Minecraft. It's fine for your child with ADHD to socialize with kids that are a bit younger, especially outside of school. It often can boost their self-esteem as they feel like the responsible ones. Be sure your child understands that it's also okay just to have a few friends. Social situations at school sometimes means managing bullies. As the ADHD brain can be hijacked instantly by the perception of threat, acknowledging how being bullied or mocked can be emotionally devastating for your child. Unfortunately, saying something like, just ignore them, probably isn't going to help. After acknowledging their feelings, you could suggest to your child that the way a bully behaves is usually a reflection of the bully's fears and insecurities. When a child can feel a touch of compassion for the other, they are less likely to feel the need to react in their own defense. Humor is an effective way to diffuse a potentially threatening situation. Have your child practice using humorous retorts in a mirror at home so they are ready when needed. Finally, developing strategies for effective socializing is a lifelong process. When your child is at the right age, you could introduce them to the idea of noticing when it's appropriate to do polite conversation and when it's okay to just be their full-on selves. This way, a child understands that there are times to pull back a bit and perform socializing in a certain way, but they're not expected to always be restraining their natural enthusiasm. Developing strategies for work that will work for the individual is a lifelong process of assessing what works, making adjustments, and making the strategies better. Bottom line, what supports a child's ability to make friends? A sense of safety. A sense that no matter what, the parent or carers believe in them, and treatment for ADHD, including development of skills and understanding of how their brain works. ADHD-linked behaviors that can impede making and keeping friends can be addressed and strategies developed to help their social lives be richer. Your part is to model for your child the approaches that will help them to develop the awareness and skills that they will need to practice in their daily lives.